Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome on this beautiful, glorious, sunny day. We've just been talking about it before we came live. All around the country, I gather. So you're all very welcome. Dorothy O'Byrne, Managing Director of CCMA, and on screen you'll see Niamh O'Doherty of WSI supporting us on the webinar, Mary McCarthy of Microsoft, and Donal Cullen from Spanish Point Technologies. So you're all very welcome. We've a great webinar in store today, and I know there's been a lot of interest in this topic, and the theme is stay safe, stay well, stay connected, and keep learning. And I know Mary's going to share her insights on what they have been doing and what the team in Microsoft have been doing since the whole pandemic, and how you're keeping people connected. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so please put through any questions that you have on the little tab to the right there that you'll see. That we'll take any questions. We predominantly, hopefully, take them at the end, and we've allowed 5-10 minutes for questions. But just to give the formal introduction, so Mary is the Global Readiness Culture and People Leader with Microsoft. And as I say, she is going to talk about the Microsoft Stay Safe, Stay Well, Stay Connected and Keep Learning program, which would be of huge interest. And then Donal is co-founder and CEO of Spanish Point Technologies, who are a partner with Microsoft and deliver digital transformation. So we know it's been a challenging time for everybody. We were just talking about the number of webinars that we've been hosting over the last few months. We think our library now is up to about 60. So just to remind you all, CCMA members and non-CCMA members, that they're all up on our events page. If you just go down to previous events, the recordings are there, the presentations are there. So it's a really good library of very useful information and good insights from industry experts that hopefully will help you in the day-to-day running of your customer experience operations. So it's gone 2:02. I'm going to hand over to Mary. Myself and Niamh are going to come off screen, and please do send through questions as we go along, and I'll hand over to you now. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. It's so lovely to be on a webinar with an Irish audience. I spend a lot of my time usually on the road, and I always love connecting with people here. What I wanted to do today was share with you some detail on the Stay Safe, Stay Well, Stay Connected and Keep Learning initiative that we kicked off. I'll start by giving you a brief overview of the customer service and support organization at Microsoft. Then I'll take you through the program and what we've done. And really centered around the importance of collaboration, care, empathy and kindness, and how technology can support us in these very challenging times. And then I'll hand over to Donal from Spanish Point, who's going to talk more about the value of technology in these challenging times. And then we'll go to Q&A. So I hope that sounds okay for everybody. If we can go to the next slide, please, Niamh, and I can give you a quick overview of the customer service and support organization of Microsoft. So if you go to the next slide, this gives you an overview of the breadth of customer that we support at Microsoft. So I'm sitting in the Modern Life Gaming and Customer Services organization, which is part of customer service and support. The Modern Life Gaming and Customer Service team, it focuses on primarily consumer support. So for our Windows, Office, OneDrive, Hotmail, Outlook.com customers, as well as our Xbox. So we have lots of gamers that we look after who have been very busy during the pandemic, I might add. And then devices, so our Surface consumer and commercial portfolio. So we have a whole spectrum of customers ranging from consumer to very large enterprise, and a whole range of services from subscriptions, advertising, rewards, all the way through to connectivity, collaboration, CRM, etc. So obviously we try and build a one Microsoft approach to our customer care, but that can be challenging given the complexity of our customer base. And if we go to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I'm part of the Modern Life Gaming and Customer Services organization, and that is a team of 300 Microsoft employees globally who drive customer support through an ecosystem of over 10,000 advocates. So they would be our frontline agents who are based all around the world. We work with 11 delivery partners, so outsourced partners, and our model is very complex based on the product base that I shared. But for me, in the readiness culture and people space, I'm absolutely focused on engaging our employees through a purpose-driven culture. And I feel incredibly lucky, as someone who's been at Microsoft for a very long time, to see how our culture has evolved and how we're focusing on people to drive the mission that we have, which is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And I can't think of a better time than right now to be able to help with that. And our ambitions are bold, and so must our desire to change and evolve our culture. And things are changing so rapidly for us right now with the current environment that we have to apply a growth mindset and figure out what can we do differently. So we know we have amazing technology, but what can we do to enable our people to succeed at this time? And you'll see in the bottom right hand of the slide here, we focus on growth mindset, and we've been working on that as part of our culture for a number of years. But with that, we think about customer obsession. How can we show up as diverse and inclusive individuals and as an organization? How do we bring one Microsoft together? So all of those complex products and services, so that we're showing up as one team. And ultimately, how do we make a difference? So when we were faced with the pandemic, I brought this slide to my team and I said, okay, we need to do something. What is it that we can do? So if you could share the video, please, Neve, and then we'll go back to the Stay Safe program.
We're going to empower this process of showing courage in the face of reality. The real question that needs to be asked as well as answered is, what is it that we can do that is unique, that is impactful?
It began with the question and a desire to make a difference.
Can you hear me talking?
What we do impacts each and every one of us.
Technology has the power to unite us.
That is something to be celebrated.
When I lost my eyesight, I thought that my painting days were over.
But the vision has evolved, and our mission is clear. We are going to empower every individual and every organization to do more.
I built a computer and I opened a fridge with a Lego.
To achieve more.
We can study black rhinos without disturbing their natural environment, so we can help keep them safe.
Technology has changed Braylon's life by opening up the world for him.
It is a process of continuous renewal. It is about looking forward.
Whatever I can do to help compute a cure for cancer, that's what I'd like to do.
I can see him.
And asking the question, what can we do together? There is no limit to how far we can go.
If you dream big enough and believe in your dreams, you can make it happen.
Thanks, Steve. So when you look at that, what can we do? We know we have technology, we know we need to get connected, and we know we need to collaborate. So back on the 12th of March, I was in Athens at a leadership offsite where we were planning our big events for our next fiscal year, and all of a sudden got a message saying everyone needs to go home. And we battled our way through airports to get back to the different countries in the world that we needed to get to. And then over the following days, we were faced with the challenge of bringing 10,000 outsourced advocates from a call center environment where they all were very comfortable working together, had supervisors beside them, had buddies and mentors and lots of support and help. And we had to move them to a work from home environment through different curfews, different challenges. And many of them had never worked from home before, or indeed even had an infrastructure to be able to do so. We also were faced with our internal teams needing to move to work from home and get set up. So as our operations teams were going, we're in business continuity planning meetings all day, every day, trying to figure out how do we keep our customers supported through this time, work on scheduling, work on all these things. My team and I took a step back and said, you know, we need to fix that problem now, but we need to also look at something that will that can sustain us in the long term, and we need to make sure that all of our people know how grateful we are for the incredible work that they're doing and the efforts that they're making to look after customers each and every day. So, so we looked at, you know, what was going on around the world, and our colleagues in China had already been through pretty significant challenge. So we asked them what would have helped them if we had done more of as they were going through the pandemic earlier on. And we also reached out to our delivery partners. So we have what we call a think tank, which is a forum of the senior leaders from the big outsourced partners that we work with. And we meet with them monthly to talk about the biggest challenges we have and how we can co-create solutions. So we reached out to them and say, you know, what would be of most value to the frontline teams right now? And the first answer was, a message of gratitude from your teams would be fabulous. And we kind of went, well, how are we going to get a message of gratitude from everyone on our teams? And we started looking at ways of pulling together stories. Now, Flipgrid is a video software application that Microsoft purchased a number of years ago, and it's an educational software which leads a kind of an educator or a teacher to post a question online with video and then request an answer, and people can interact and engage. So it's asynchronous, but it's really powerful of getting people connected and seeing what's going on, and then people can vote up the videos they like the best. So we started by creating engaging videos through Flipgrid, where some of our teams shared what we were doing and how we work from home, and then we got responses from people all around the world, and we just continued the conversation through that to keep morale up. And we were really blown away by our own teams and how many of them were willing to go and share videos, because they knew that our colleagues in different parts of the world were struggling. We also were able to open up some online training and resources. So we opened up, whitelisted some of the materials we had on LinkedIn Learning around working from home, so giving tips and best practices. And we also got some great well-being resources that were talking about how do people make sure that they're looking after themselves and getting exercise and taking breaks as they work from home, as well as some do's and don'ts checklists with the technology. One of the setups that we had to work with was a number of our advocates in Nigeria didn't have a work from home solution, so they were moved into a hotel environment, and we wanted to keep them safe and connected to their families, so we were able to get Skype minutes to them too. And then all the way through, we said we're going to reward and recognize engagement, because we know that that employee engagement is what's going to get us through. And so we were able to give out some Xbox tokens and Skype minutes to keep people engaged and connected. We can go to the next slide, please. So we started out with kind of a framework of, you know, different activities or initiatives that we would run. Initially, we thought over a course of 4 weeks, but hey, 6 months later, we're still there. We thought about topics that would be useful, but would also could be reused if we need to go back on them. So we created the Flipgrid videos, inviting people to communicate to us, and we communicate out on round topics on look after me, take a break, how I'm learning, and then finally how we care for Microsoft customers. So at Microsoft, we have a customer experience framework, which is centered around empowering, helping, and empowering and helping our customers. And we have a model called CARE, which is communicate effectively, be accountable, be resourceful, and show empathy. So as part of the activities that we built into this program, we reinforce the importance of customer obsession and putting the customer at the center of everything we do. So you see, that we have, we created content and playbooks, so all of this is reusable for other business groups and other teams within Microsoft. And then we used the technology and showed others how we're using Teams and Flipgrid and LinkedIn Learning to enable the program in the event that it needs to go for longer. So that should give you a flavour of the program. I'll just share the next slide, kind of some of the impact of the engagement. So I mentioned that we have 11 outsourced partners we worked with there in over 30 locations around the world. We connected 10,000 advocates with all of our own internal teams getting involved in the activities. We have 700 or more videos in multiple languages, so people chose to record themselves in local language and then closed caption it back in English, which was really fun, with over 2 full weeks of shared learning, so people sharing what they're doing, how they're doing it. And we look at the 24,000 video views as the equivalent of at least 24,000 smiles. And if you can create 24,000 smiles, in my view, that's a pretty good connection. And then we're also seeing phenomenal downloads of the online learning content, which shows how much appetite there is with our frontline advocate teams to continuously learn and evolve to support customers. The level of creativity, and that is one of 700 videos that we have received back. So we have created Oscars of Flipgrid, where we're sharing the best of, and it's incredibly rewarding, and we're now building it out to expand it over Customer Service Week in October. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Donal, and I look forward to any questions that you may have at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, I mean, that's fascinating, Mary, to see how Microsoft transitioned from like pre-COVID and having people in offices to transitioning to remote working. And like 10,000 is certainly a big number. Guys, I'm just going to close my window. You might be able to hear the street cleaner outside, so forgive me, I'll just do that. Yeah, as Dorothy said at the top of the webinar, it's a great day here, so I have my window open. Yeah, so we're a Microsoft partner, and we work with Microsoft technologies to deliver solutions to service providers and other organizations. And they asked me to come along today, I suppose, to talk about some of the technology that helped Mary achieve that transition to remote working and to deliver better customer service. I think it's fascinating that like one of Mary's goals was to put the customer at the center of what was going to happen. So in this transition, they decided that actually what we're going to try and do is prioritize the customer, maybe deliver better service to the customer. So Niamh, if you just move on the slide, please. Yeah, so just like a very little bit about us. So we're based in Dublin, Ireland, about 70 staff. We deliver solutions exclusively around the Microsoft platform, 100% cloud. We do a lot of big data work with Microsoft, machine learning, stuff like that, and we're a top 10 partner in Western Europe. But enough about us, and let's talk about the kind of technologies that helped Mary achieve those goals, and indeed, you know, enable that focus on the customer. Before we do that, like we're all aware that the forces that are driving change in the service industry. 35% of people working from home is probably a low number. It's probably a lot higher now, and not what we had would have expected back in, say, February or even early March. Customer interactions are growing in terms of where they start, so much more self-service from customers. And of course, when we enable self-service, we get more signals, we get more events. So how do we manage that increase in events when we move to self-service? And as Mary said, a need to be concerned about our employees and help our employees through this journey. And we know if we have employee retention, we have better outcomes for our customers, and we know it's something we need to do. And we need to understand that customers are expecting better service. So that's another drive in the industry. The challenges we're facing, so Neva, you want to just buzz on to the next slide? So like, what do we expect to see coming down the line? So we're probably not going to go back to the way we were working. So we're probably expecting that our staff will look for and demand more distributed and remote working. And we're probably going to see more channels in terms of where our support instances and how we interact with our customers come from. Things like IoT, direct channels from software systems, hardware, etc. We're seeing an increasing expectation of how we manage our resources. So we have limited resources. Are we optimizing them? How can we do that? A need to keep customers' data and customers safe and our staff safe. And of course, a lot of you are probably looking at aging and legacy systems and how we integrate those. So where we see this and where Microsoft see this as, I suppose, is across 4 key pillars and 4 areas where Microsoft have invested in. That is the core Dynamics platform. So this is a multi-year investment by Microsoft to take Dynamics, fully cloudify it, make it a full cloud-native, cloud-first service. To underpin that with artificial intelligence, Microsoft are probably the top organization on the planet in terms of its investment in AI and bringing AI as a service to businesses and organizations like yourselves. So we know there are other players who are investing heavily in AI, but that's kind of to drive marketing outcomes and maybe to drive, outcomes around, signaling around selling, etc. Microsoft's goal is to empower AI for its customers, and it's literally hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. And its goal and objective is to start to embed AI under its core products. So we see Dynamics with AI, and we start to see that coming in. I'll talk about that in a moment. And then a move towards enabling greater automation and greater process and automated workflow, and actually attaching that to AI. And then lastly, in terms of always on excellent customer service, is about having a mixed reality environment. And I'll talk about that in terms of having support solutions whereby support can be escalated to individuals with direct video feeds to the customer's environment, and some great case studies around how that works. Thanks, Niamh. Bringing all that together is a view that we need to have one holistic view of the data. This is like easily said, but not easily done in IT. And a lot of you will probably be familiar with like working with different service providers, different stakeholders with multiple different systems, and just the challenge of having one common view. And Microsoft literally ripped out the heart of Dynamics a number of years ago and put in a common data framework under it, and had that data framework built in a way that partners and customers could extend it to pull in other data and then make that available to those other pillars that I spoke about, AI, the core Dynamics engine, and indeed analytics and machine learning. So they're the kind of core pillars that Microsoft see as they need to go forward. In terms of, thanks, Niamh, you want to just move on? In terms of what we're trying to deliver from those pillars, I suppose, is across 4 key areas. So we want a scalable solution. So is it possible for you to scale up and scale down and have the resources that meet that scaling challenge, and have your cost footprints that is aligned to the level of work you're involved in? Is it integrated in itself, which isn't always easy and isn't always achieved? And is it integrated with third-party systems? Can it optimize, and can you optimize processes? And can your employees carry out their tasks in an efficient way? What we expect that to drive in terms of outcomes is just maximize your investment. So we're all familiar with software assets and systems that have been invested in and really haven't hit their ROI. And that's something Microsoft think long and hard about. They can't really have that with their software. They expect, and their customers expect them to hit those ROI metrics that were promised. Can it increase customer retention? And as Mary said earlier, how do you put the customer at the core? With optimization, can we decrease the time to fix and increase the fix rate? Are there signals and data in your system that will allow a service operator to close this call more quickly? Could we automate that with a chat box? And could we actually, for some calls, take that human intervention out? And can we make the employees happier? So we know that staff who carry out these tasks are not happy when the systems don't integrate, when the user interfaces are kludgy, when they don't know how to get at data, when they know there's data there, but it takes them too long to get to in the time window that they have. So they're the challenges. So how does Dynamics meet those challenges, and how is that relevant for yourselves? So if we move on, in terms of scale, so what we want to have is, we want to have a system that allows us to automate the customer engagement so that we can carry out our operations more efficiently. So can we build process automation into the system? And can we do it in a way that is flexible, that is scalable, and that integrates with other systems in a seamless way? So can we move away from robots that are based on screen scraping and very much based on a fixed view of the world, don't allow for changes in the environment, etc. And can we do that with an underlying workflow engine that's integrated into the system? Can we start to pull AI into the system so that when we scale out our calls and we start to build up a history of activity, do we have an engine that can start to glean insights out of that and be connected, for instance, to a chatbot that starts to understand what type of query we have? Can we have AI that quickly notifies team leaders that there's been a spike in a particular event and that they need to look at the reason behind that spike? And can we start to connect to the machine-based systems that are giving us signals and allow us to connect to those devices that you might have to support in terms of hardware, etc. I mean, an example of a customer that managed to meet scale recently is actually, if you move on there, Niamh, is the Red Cross in Australia. When the pandemic started, they were tasked with contacting and supporting people, particularly elderly and vulnerable people who were self-isolating. They started off with 50 Excel spreadsheets as the kind of method to manage this. They moved to Dynamics, they built forms, they do about 10,000 calls a day now with the system based on automation that they got out of the box with Dynamics. And they did that in super quick time, and they were able to do that because one of the key features that you look for in the future is low code, no code, low code, the ability for your business users and power users and indeed end users to start to code or build their own solutions without actually having to write code, but can use the tool to do that. So we just move on in terms of the integration pillar. So can we deliver customer service that integrates back to the end user customer experience? And one of the things that's like really delivering is in terms of that remote customer service, where we can actually connect to the user's device and the user can actually show us on video what's going on at the point in time. Can we personalize the data so as that our operatives have a better view of the customer and the overall customer relationship? And can we add analytics into that to provide better feedback on what's happening with our customers? A great example of that virtual reality support experience is actually Imperial College Healthcare, where they used a HoloLens with some of the nurses and care staff who were in the COVID wards, but they didn't want to expose some of the specialists. And they were able to sit at screens, and with the HoloLens, they were actually able to deliver the care, but also able to deliver equipment support, etc., so that technicians could direct people in the wards to go to the machines, have a look at them, do the diagnostics, and actually have them fix it. This is likely to be a big, big deal as we move forward. The ability to have experts come in remotely, the ability to escalate issues through to the experts and have the experts see at first hand what's going on both in a healthcare setting and also in an engineering setting is going to have a big, big impact. Just to move forward, Niamh. So The next area we want to look at, I suppose, as we promised, is how do we start to optimize against the challenges we have, the SLAs we have to meet, the resources we have. As we look to have both specialized teams where we can escalate to, and as we look to have teams that are multidisciplined, how do we schedule the tasks and the calls over those teams in a way that optimizes the resources we have, helps us meet our SLAs, and lets us know in advance if we're going to have scheduling issues that are going to drive us out of an SLA. And this is about having AI under that optimization process, having flexible optimization, and delivering it back to the team leaders so they can, have a visualization of how they're doing. An organization that did this, if you move on, Neve. So Navco are the biggest provider of security devices and integrated security, electronic security systems in North America. They're a privately owned company, and they pride themselves on delivering excellent customer service. They want to deliver better SLAs, and they want to show a delta between their SLAs and their opposition's SLA. But to do that, they really needed to make sure that their scheduling was working and they were optimizing their resources. If they could schedule in a better way, they could release resources to improve SLAs elsewhere. If they could have visibility of missing SLAs, they could start to allocate resources to make sure with customers with particular SLAs that they could hit those SLAs. And were their sales teams able to define SLAs that were customized to particular customers? And were they able to build that back into their optimization and scheduling process? They use Dynamics to achieve that, and their case study and their testimonial about Dynamics are really quite impressive, and you can drop on Microsoft's website to see that. I suppose the last area I need just to move on, that we spoke about, is just empowering employees and giving the employees a better tool set. Integrating your Dynamics with your other collaboration tools can have a really big impact across service organizations from, as few as tens of people to thousands of people. Having teams in the background and be able to fire up teams and get access to information easily, drive better collaboration. It drives up employee satisfaction, it drives up engagement, and it is one of the things that we see actually improves the overall workplace, and has absolutely been necessary in terms of moving towards an environment where we work from home and supported by COVID. We do a lot of work with Microsoft. We drive a lot of Azure consumption. I know that the Teams usage went up 6-fold at the back end of the month of March. We could see the server issues spike in terms of the amount of capacity. But what is amazing is that Microsoft met their promise to their enterprise and their business customers. And I hope Mary doesn't mind me saying this because she works with the consumer team, but I'm not really that bothered when I meet people and they say, hey, isn't Zoom great? What's Teams doing? Because I know that Teams is delivering for my enterprise customers. I know it's secure. I know there are no data issues with it. And I know that people can get at their business data in a way easier way. And if people want to use Zoom, as myself and my buddies did for our poker session every Friday night during the hard lockdown, and I'm really hoping we don't go back to that, then that's fine. But I think in terms of the enterprise teams and integrating teams with Dynamics has been a great win. The next case study is fascinating. If you move on, I love this story because Arla are actually a cooperative in Denmark, and they're a 10 billion euro organization, and they basically produce most of the milk for Denmark. As they're a cooperative, they're owned by their producers, and if one of their plants goes down, their farmers who own them don't get to process their milk. And as they started to tackle COVID, they realized they couldn't really have an outage in a plant because there's nowhere to put the milk if the plant isn't open. But what were they going to do in terms of their engineering support teams that would normally be in cars and trucks and vans driving around to these plants and taking out equipment, changing PCB boards on production lines, etc. They moved to remote support through Dynamics. and they moved to that video function where through the phone, people on the plant were saying, these are the signals on the board, what should I do? And the engineers were saying, this is what I want you to do. And that allowed them keep that infrastructure running, and it allowed them fix issues that they previously would have had to send out a technician to fix. And I find it's a great story because, as I say, I mean, Arla is owned by its suppliers, and I suppose they would have been pretty teed off if the milk hadn't been processed. So I suppose I wanted to spin through that quickly, and I wanted to really cover those core issues. What Microsoft are talking about is the ability to scale, embedding AI under the product, improving the end customer experience through Internet of Things and virtual reality, and improving the employee experience through integration with their other tools. If you're interested in this, we run a bunch of boot camps on this area. We actually built a Power Apps, which is related to Dynamics, and we've given it out. You know, we give it free to anyone who wants it, which is basically enables you to book a desk in your organization and allows you to maintain the COVID guidance, keep a record of who's in the office, etc. And that's a cool example of a small Power App that's built on that kind of process automation. So that was a kind of whistle-stop tour around the benefits that Microsoft bring. And if you have any questions, I'll take them now. And Mary, thanks for teaming me up with some great actual stories about how your technology works.
That's great. Thanks, Donal. Thanks, Mary. I'm conscious of time, so we have a few minutes for questions. And the first one I'll kick off with Mary is, as I said to you earlier, we've been having a series of webinars over the last few months for CCMA members, and one of the things is sort of the roller coaster effect of this pandemic. So I suppose my first question was how you've kept the momentum going in this program and not lost, I suppose, the novelty factor that sometimes can be associated with sort of employee engagement programs.
We've got lots of fun and the energetic people on the team. So, and as people are going into dips and emotional highs and lows, we've managed to keep good ideas flowing. I think we also are working in a very large global organization where we can try things in one location, and then if it doesn't work, we do something different in another. We're now, as I said, over the summer, so summer in Europe, August, things dipped a little bit, but we're now going back up again for Customer Service Week, and we have a ton of new ideas to bring forward. We're also very lucky that internally there's lots of wellness resources that we can research and assess how they might work. So lots of research and lots of fun people. That's it.
And actually, just one of the things one of our other member companies has mentioned recently is that they've started to put together a calendar to be more scheduled. They would have had it in the normal course of things, but I think to do a lot more pre-planning of things like what you're talking about, Customer Service Week, to have things like that you can hook something, an initiative onto. I have a question from Anne-Marie in Northern Trust. I'll just read the full. Thank you. This is a very interesting presentation. We had a similar journey with trying to get our frontline staff working effectively at home and ensuring we keep the high level of customer service to our clients, while also helping our colleagues feel like they were still part of a team when not in the office. What do you feel was the most effective initiative that you began that helped the team feel supported as one team while working from home?
So we have very many teams. I think for our Microsoft internal team, we ran a series of coffee sessions, like we had 3 a day per time zone, and we ran them, and now we translated them in. We have sessions every week where people come along and chat, and that works really, really well, because it's not, some people found it awkward showing up with strangers and talking to them. So that's working really well, and it's also reinforcing our D&I topic. But the delivery partners, what we found really interesting is we started off by having a Flipgrid per partner site. So if we had a site in Romania and one in Nigeria, we kept them separate. But what they really wanted to see was what their colleagues in other locations were also doing to keep well and keep connected. So when we were doing the Oscars videos and pulling the best highlights together, and we shared them across the board, that really engaged more connection, and people were almost competing for more likes depending on the location, and it's just a bit of fun.
Yeah. And I definitely think that the whole gamification has to be part of some of these programs. I mean, we were seeing that anyway in customer service or customer experience operations in the last couple of years, but I think it has intensified in terms of trying to build that team spirit. And Donal, the question I want to ask you is how you play a poker game on Zoom, but I can't ask you that because this is obviously a serious webinar. But I suppose I think what's interesting from the technology point of view is the challenge around, I think sometimes companies, the technology is there, but without the case studies that you've gone through, people can't see how they can apply the technology. So if there was one tip in terms of, you talked about video, how companies can use it, and again, in the context of staff engagement, is there anything you'd suggest for them to do, or what case study they should look at in a little bit more detail to learn a little bit more?
Well, I suppose the big point I'd say is that if the service is cloud native, you really have a long roadmap, runway in front of you in terms of innovation that's going to be available to you. If it's not cloud native, then I would really be looking at how I can start to move to the cloud. Like all of the organizations that we dealt with that had moved to Office 365 and the Microsoft platform, like the move to home working was relatively straightforward for them. For others, it was more difficult. So I suppose there's not an easy answer there, but I'd say like those on the cloud and those not on the cloud, like that delta is going to be really big over the next 3 to 5 years, I think. And that's just the fact of life. I mean, I think, you know, there are great technologies that can take some of those older applications and make them available for remote working, like Windows Virtual Desktop and tools like that, and they're available. And you know, Microsoft have great experience with them. Microsoft 365 is now pretty much installable yourselves, so it's easy to go, and that's where I would start. So that's, I mean, you know, that's where we work, but that's where we see the benefit, and that's what we see. AI for people in your industry is going to be very big. I mean, it's going to be very big. We're seeing it already, and we're seeing customers try to benefit out of it. Self-service with AI is going to be a sweet spot, and we're going to look back and wonder why we didn't see it coming, basically. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I have to say quite a few of the webinars where people have shown examples of where they've used it, where they've had to switch off voice and go on to messaging and different applications, and how AI has supported that. We're being by the clock here, so I know certainly, Mary, Donal, if there's any further questions, you're both on LinkedIn if anybody wants to connect with you. As I said, a recording of the webinar will go up hopefully probably around this time tomorrow, and we'll also have a copy of the deck there as well to share with people. But can I just say on behalf of everybody, thank you so much to both of you for your time this afternoon. Great to meet you both and to hear all that's been going on. And I know there's resources available on both the Microsoft and the Spanish Point websites for people to download further information and look at some of the case studies that you talked about. So thanks as always to Niamh, and thank you everybody for your participation.
Thanks, Artie. Thanks, Niamh. Thanks, Mary. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.